Seems like everybody that's got engines on YouTube likes to do a cold start video, so I'm going to do a cold start video too with the M engine here. And I'm going to do this in real time. And the only thing I've done off camera is the grease cups, putting fresh grease in the cups. Some of them were pretty close to empty. And make sure that they've got grease in them. I don't plan on running the engine very long, so there's no water in the hopper. That's a safety precaution. I don't want it freezing, busting the jacket. But I've run these engines for 4 or 5 minutes, and it's, without water in them, and it's not done any damage. So, and this is a pretty good running engine. It starts pretty easy. It might be bulky because we're on camera here, but and it's cold, but I bet it actually starts up pretty easy. So, and this will kind of serve as a how-to on how to run one of these. So basically, it's pretty simple. There's grease cups. There's 4 of them. One for each of the main crankshaft bearings. One for the connecting rod bearing. And one for the camshaft bearing, or half-time shaft. And then everywhere else you apply oil. There's oil sinks. Most of the other locations, an oil hole there on the magneto. And check the governor and make sure it's free. The springs are hooked up. And then the hardest part is priming the mixer. So we'll go ahead and add oil. I'm sure there's supposed to be some felt in here to help hold the little extra oil. Is not going to hurt anything. Help hold that oil in there. And add a little bit of oil. There's an oil hole right here. I usually put a drop on the surfaces there of the roller. Yep, it's got a roller rocker on it. How's that, huh? Roller lifter. Oil there. Drop of oil there. That's oil. Okay. I like to put a drop of oil on the stem of each of the valves to help seal. Put a drop of oil there. Drop of oil there. On the governor here, put some oil there and some oil there. And I'm sure there's some other places that could use it, but like right there. Okay. And I'll go ahead and turn the cylinder lubricator on. And check, make sure it's gonna drop some oil. Yes, that's working. Should be between about 4 to 6 drops a minute. The oil's kind of thick. It's dripping a little slow, but I'm sure it'll be okay. Okay, then the other thing here is, okay, I've got the fuel shut off. I'm gonna unscrew this so I can look inside there and see it's empty. And the timing lever has 2 positions. There's run and start. We're going to leave it in the start position. And then the next thing to do is to prime the fuel pump. or not, I'm sorry, not prime the fuel pump, prime the mixer. There has to be fuel in here for it to work. And it's an overflow system, so there's a suction line here. Fuel is drawn from the tank and through the pump. This is a Delco pump, so this is a later model engine. So it's drawn through the pump and out the discharge line and up into the mixer. And the mixer has two chambers here. There's the main chamber where fuel is drawn in to the airstream, and then there's a partition, and then there's an overflow. And so the fuel level is maintained by constantly pumping fuel into the mixer and letting it flow across the top of that partition, which has a machined surface. So this is the return line that overflows back into the tank, and it connects to the filler connection on the tank. And I've rebuilt this fuel pump. You can buy that rubber diaphragm material in sheets and then cut it the size. And so we're going to prime it by pulling on this priming lever here. And that makes sure that everything is working correctly. I want to make sure that everything is functional. That you had that clog up a time or two, the suction line on the carburetor. Okay, then I can look over here and see if I can see fuel in the mixer. Looking through the hole here, I don't see any in there. So we're going to prime it some more. Okay, I see some fuel in there now. It'll run with the fuel level pretty low, like when it's running out, but I don't know about starting. So we might have to prime it some more. The thing is pretty hard, the little handle's pretty hard to operate. So we have to cheat here and use something that's a little bigger here to operate it. And I don't think that's going to work. Got another hand crank here that might work better for doing that. Yeah, a little bit bigger handle that's a little bit more comfortable to operate. Yeah, it says Gibbs on the handle because I bought this off of Peggy Gibbs. This engine belonged to the late Lawrence Gibbs. Okay, look at that. Can you see that? We have, probably not going to show up, we have fuel in the mixer now. Okay, so I can put this cap back in place. Okay, we're going to take our hand crank and we're going to roll the engine over a few times, get the oil distributed. Okay, that should be good. Okay, one more time. Okay, leave the hand crank on there. Okay, so now that the mixer's primed, go ahead and turn this. I know how far to turn this from previous experience running the engine. We'll put it about there. So this is closed. We'll put it there for open and running it with no load. Seems to be right there. I've never really put a load on this engine, so I don't know how far you need to open it up further. But got the timing set for starting, so I don't get bucked by the crank. And it'll have to be flipped over a time or two to get it to go. So it will draw the fuel into the engine. Okay. And when it catches, we'll let it run, and if it starts, I've got everything hooked up still. Open the choke just a little bit, let it run a little bit so it'll warm up. Go ahead and advance the timing to the running position. No rocker on the intake, it just uses vacuum. Speed it up a little bit there. Turn the grease cups down a little bit, and the crank pin is fairly simple. You just, this is left-hand threaded, so while the engine's running, you just grab a hold of it and turn it like that, and then it pushes grease down into the engine, into the crank pin, and then these grease cups, you just turn them down a little bit like this. You can see the grease coming out on the bearings there. This is the grease cup for the crank, for the half-time bearing, half-time shaft, or camshaft as we call it on a modern engine. This is a camshaft bearing, camshaft down there. That thing sticking out is a gib key that holds the eccentrics to the shaft. Things held together with gib keys on the larger parts. The flywheels are held on with gib keys. Anything else just bolts together though. Like that. Up and running. And you get the grease at Atwood's and Tractor Supply. It's just a heavy-duty ag grease. Probably a bit thinner than what they would have originally used. They would have probably used what they'd call a hard grease. This has more of the consistency of peanut butter. They would have probably used a harder grease that was more like butter when the refrigerator. Okay, that's probably enough running. There's no water in the jacket. So, go ahead and shut it off. Good compression on this engine. Shut off the oiler. And then don't forget to retard the spark back. So let's see how easy it would start now. Turn the oiler back on. I don't know if I need to choke it or not. Let's try it without the choke first. Let's do half choked. Because you're cranking it at such a slow speed. It's got a compensating valve inside the mixer there, so that it compensates for low engine speed. Might need full choke to start. Oh yeah, there we go. Got it nice and rich there. Yeah, that was neat. Lean pop. Okay. And shut it back off. That's the, you don't want to make it too rich. That's the biggest problem I had with this engine was when I got it, was the spark plug was so dirty and worn out. I couldn't make it work, so I put a new spark plug. And that made all my starting problems go away. So, this engine had sat for nearly 10 years in Peggy's garage after Lawrence died. And, so I got it back up and running. Didn't really do a whole lot to it to get it back up and running. Lubricate. Refilled the oiler and took it apart first and cleaned it. Had to change out the parts inside the mixer here. The little pot metal jet assembly had been replaced with some piece made from some copper plumbing pipes, and there was air leaks in there, so it wouldn't work. Supposed to be threads in there where the needle valve threads into this, and what it had was a brass pipe plug that had been drilled and threaded for the needle valve to go through, and then this piece here was made to replace the die-cast jet assembly, and it didn't work. It was very fiddly to get the needle valve adjusted right to make the engine run, and then combining that with the old worn-out spark plug. So I've got another one of these engines that's been a long-term restoration project. If you look at the website, you'll see. And so I took the die-cast jet assembly and needle valve out of that mixer and put in this engine, and that made all those troubles go away. And then there was also a minor problem with the butterfly and the linkage on the original engines. This part right here, this bell crank, is die cast, and it had probably disintegrated too because it was, probably a low quality pot metal. And so someone had made this, but they didn't get the adjustment on the linkage right. So there was just some very minor things I had to resolve, but the engine runs real reliably now, and it's a fun little engine. I would recommend these as a good beginner's engines if you're looking for your first open flywheel engine to buy. They're not hit and miss governed; they're throttle governed. Of course, that's the only thing I kind of don't like about it. I would like to have an engine with that hit and miss governing. But it's a throttle governed engine, and they run real nice. They're a little bit cleaner engine to run because the crank is enclosed, but also that kind of diminishes some of the visual appeal that these engines have. And but for a beginner's engine, they're a good engine to have. They're not outrageously huge. This is a 1.5 horsepower. I've got the Wyco EK magneto, and that's a pretty good reliable magneto. I've had a couple of those and they always work. So there it is, the McCormick-Deering 1.5 horsepower M engine. And cold start. Started it, ran it, stopped it, started it again in all less than 20 minutes. So okay, yeah, this is, I think, going on the third or fourth consecutive day we've had where temperatures are below freezing here in Oklahoma, and or at least in this part of Oklahoma, and so I haven't started this engine in a couple weeks. So it was a fun little thing to do to say. So okay, thank you for watching.